What's up, Dunwoody? Welcome back to the podcast. It's all about Dunwoody, Georgia. I'm Matt Weber, the host, and today I'm here with Erin. Show is brought to you by Village Orthodontics in the Village. So, Erin, you were introduced to me by Greg Gordon, friend of mine, and he just raved about you and your nonprofit. So, I guess just give us a little brief overview, and then we'll get into it.
Well, shout out to Greg. Thanks, Greg. Love him at Goldbergs.
Yeah.
So Bagel Rescue is a hunger relief food rescue nonprofit, and we deal specifically in bagels. So you may know that bagel shops work on the model of selling you freshly made bagels every day. And so they set out early in the morning to make all the delicious flavors, but it's sort of a guessing game because they don't know who's going to buy what on any given day. And so exactly, they want to satisfy their customers. So they overproduce a little bit. And sometimes it's a lot because they just don't know. And so Bagel Rescue came along as a responsible choice for bagel shops to donate their bagels. And instead of discarding them at the end of the day, they can put them to good use. So we take bagels to all sorts of feeding programs like shelters, food pantries, youth programs, senior centers, addiction recovery facilities. We go to extended stay hotels where people are living right now, medical residences, and street outreach efforts.
Yeah. I personally have no problem with day-old bagels. I eat Goldbergs day-old bagels all the time. And so, yeah,
Right.
This is a really cool idea. I love it.
Thank you. Well, I mean, the bagel that was, in the store at 159 is the same bagel at 201, when the store closes. So, it's good food, and good food shouldn't be wasted. So we're really lucky to have 31 bagel shop donors across Metro Atlanta that help us with this program. And most of them have gone from throwing away their bagels every day to having zero bagel waste because we're able to either pick them up every day or they work with us and freeze them to keep them fresh so we can pick up on a schedule.
Yeah, and it's probably easier for them too. I mean, you just show up and pick them up.
Exactly. It is easier for them, and they're just doing the right thing to support their community.
Right. Is that like, can they write any of that off? I wonder if that saves on taxes too.
So some of them do, and I provide tax letters for that purpose. Some of them choose not to. So,
well, that's really
but
cool.
it's an option.
And so you've got 4 of them right now in Dunwoody, right? There's Goldberg. I want to give these a shout out real quick.
Yes.
Because I love these. So Goldbergs, Bagel Boys, Einstein's is like right on the border there, Sandy Springs, and then 101 Bagel, which has been a big hit recently, it seems like. I haven't been there yet, but now I'm going to have to go try them out.
Oh, they're awesome. Good people.
How do you find all these? You just Google bagels and then show up at their door?
So, sort of. So we got started, just with a few shops. And then as more and more people wanted to get involved and volunteer, each time somebody would come forward to want to help, and they lived in a certain area of town, say Buford or Cumming or whatever, then I would call a local bagel shop in their area and I would find a feeding program to pair them with and just started building schedules from there. So it was really volunteer driven. Because part of the program is efficiency. I try to keep everything pretty local to make it an easy route for volunteers, but also so that bagel shops are helping people within their immediate community.
Yeah. And you're pretty much in our immediate community. You're just over the border into Brookhaven, you said. What was your very first store? How did you start this?
So the Dunwoody Goldbergs was my first store. Yes.
I was hoping that was going to be the answer because you could almost walk there from your house. So that's
totally.
Cool.
Yes. So this all got started because in the holiday season of 2020, during the pandemic, my family wanted to do a community service project, and we would normally go to a shelter and serve a meal. But that wasn't possible. They weren't letting people in. So we decided, hey, let's do something for frontline workers. And I called Northside Hospital and they said, oh my God, everybody was showing us love in April at the beginning of the pandemic. And now no one seems to care about us, but we're still in the weeds. And so they said a meal would be great. How about a breakfast? And so I said, wonderful, went back to the family. And I said, we're just going to get some bulk bagels and spreads and OJ, and we'll bring it to the hospital. And my son, Reese, who was 9 at the time, said, bulk bagels? Why don't we get them from Goldbergs? We love Goldbergs bagels, which is true. And so I said, well, and it's maybe not as cost effective. And he said, well, why don't we ask them? And so he just like a curious 9-year-old boy, asking like a legitimate question. And so I said, well, why don't you call? And he called the manager, who was not Greg at the time, different manager. But the manager agreed to give us the leftover bagels from the day before. So we set up, the date. And when we showed up, there were hundreds of leftover bagels. And it was very surprising, but also such a great treat to bring to the hospital. And so for a while, I just, I couldn't believe that. And I got the manager to agree to let me pick up the bagels once a week and just take them to the hospital. And so I did that for a while. And then just couldn't let it go, just felt like, oh, there's more to this. And
this is working.
Exactly. And what are other bagel shops doing with their leftover bagels, So started calling around. A good friend of mine, Amy Walensky, who is a Dunwoody resident. Oh, great. Yeah. So she's a great friend, and she knew I was doing this and she wanted to help. So we kind of dug into this together and just started calling around, and we said, let's feed people who are hungry. We're in the middle of a pandemic. People are losing their jobs and their homes, and, we see lines outside of food pantries. We need to help people. And so we just kind of had a small schedule of picking up at different places, mostly the Dunwoody ones, because they were, easy for us to get to. Yeah. And then, just started developing relationships with partner agencies that needed food resources. And so, we incorporated as a nonprofit. Eventually, Amy had to move on. She went back to her roots in education. But I just, wanted to keep going. I feel so passionate about what we were doing. And so then—
Did you have background in nonprofit, or was you just winging this whole thing?
It just totally just fake it till you make it, Yeah. But I do have a background in marketing and PR and communications. So I do feel like I was able to draw on those skills. So I just said, I'm going to do this, and just kept going, looking for more volunteers. And just now we have this epic web of routes all over Metro Atlanta. We are delivering to more than 100 feeding programs every week.
Yeah, I was looking at these numbers. So 31 shops donate. They're from Milton, Buford, Austell, East Atlanta, Snellville. And you got 5,400 deliveries in 2 years. And I'm assuming it's ramped up, so it's probably more recent. And then you've delivered 500,000 bagels, or over 500,000 bagels. Is that right?
That's right. It's actually more like— yeah, it's more like 750,000 now.
That's crazy. Have you seen anybody else do this across the country? Now that you've started it up, do you see other people doing this?
So food rescue is a thing, and others in Atlanta do food rescue, but as far as I'm aware, no one specifically does bagels like we do. But I've had people in other cities approach me about wanting to start a bagel rescue in their city. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're grabbing food from places, this is really the easiest. I mean, bagels are pretty easy to handle.
Exactly.
There's not a whole lot of refrigeration and freezing and all that stuff. It's just kind of delivering them. I'm sure that it is a very more complicated than I'm making it sound, but.
So the logistics of it get pretty complex, but the concept is simple. You pick up the bagels at the bagel shop and you take them to a feeding program. And most of our routes do work just like that. There are some that, require many more bagels than we could collect just in, a couple of pickups. So we do freeze them, and we have some regional hubs where we freeze bagels to keep them fresh.
Okay. How do you become a bagel rescuer? I love that term.
Thanks. You can go to bagelrescue.com and fill out our contact form, or just send an email to bagelrescueteam@gmail.com. And we're always looking for new volunteers.
Okay. All right. And can we talk about your son, Reese?
Of course.
I was Googling your name and I found this video that was just adorable. And you said that he was kind of the brains behind the startup of this. So what was it?
Yeah.
999 wishes?
Yes. So when he was turning 9 and couldn't have a legitimate birthday party, just sort of at the
During
beginning of the
COVID.
pandemic. Yeah. Um, we kind of all came up with this idea of doing a birthday for a cause. Again, just, we're sitting at home and our hearts are bleeding for those who are struggling. And we wanted to turn his birthday into, something good. And he's a musician. He plays guitar. And so
Very
he
well for a
wrote,
9-year-old.
thank you. Yes.
Oh,
He's a
perfect.
lefty too.
Yeah.
So he wrote a song, and he made a website. We just kind of like went online, made, a simple website. And we started asking friends and family if they would either donate non-perishable food or money. And we worked with the Atlanta Community Food Bank. And he ended up raising thousands of dollars. He really just wanted to raise $999 and 999 items of food for his ninth birthday. But it ended up being so much more than that. And
Yeah, when he got on, was it 11 Alive? 11 Alive
and
News I'm sure you got blown up after that.
yes, and that was on his 9th birthday that they interviewed him.
Oh,
So
was it? Oh,
yes, it was really sweet. And we got to go to the food bank and deliver the food and send them the money. So it was just a really awesome way to turn a bad situation, but also what, should be a happy celebration
yeah.
into something good for our community.
Yeah, and most importantly, you're teaching him that his crazy dreams can actually come true.
Right.
As a 9-year-old who most of us don't do that at age 9.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Well, he's a very motivated, special guy.
It sounds like. And he was motivation for you to do this, it sounds like, as well. If he can do that,
Absolutely.
then yeah.
Right. If he hadn't have said, let's call Goldbergs, then we probably would not have discovered this waste and this whole thing wouldn't have gotten started. And so when
Yeah.
our car smells like bagels all the time, I remind him it was his idea.
Do the everything bagels get in the way? That's my wife's biggest problem with Goldbergs is that when I order, I get the everything bagels and then that garlic gets all over her blueberry bagels and it's just a mess.
Yes. Well, so you have
Everything
to ask.
tastes like garlic.
Yes, right. So you have to ask for them to put it in a separate bag when
Yeah,
you order from Goldberg. Yes, from a bagel shop. But
I'm sure.
yes, it is overwhelming. And so sometimes we repackage the bagels so that we can hand them out more easily than just a bulk bag of bagels. And so then you end up with just all the everything seasoning over your cinnamon raisin and
Right.
your plain bagels. Yes.
So where do you go? Like, where are your favorite places to go in Atlanta around here? Like, who is most excited about these bagel deliveries?
Well, I mean, Goldberg's has been from the get-go, and we work with
Yeah.
all of their locations.
But when you end up like where the shelters that you deliver to and the food pantries and stuff like that, like they're all, I'm sure they're all ecstatic to see you.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, and we have some great partners. I mean, of course, I love going to the youth programs.
Yeah.
And, some of the children who are getting the bagels have actually, like, it's not a culturally prominent food for them. And
Yeah.
so bagels are somewhat of a new experience for them, and they have come to love them. And the educators at the programs have dedicated themselves to saying, like, this is your afternoon snack. We've bought toasters, we've bought a variety of spreads,
Yeah.
and you get to make this into whatever you want. The kids love the jalapeno cheddar bagels.
Really?
It is
I've tried
so
them before. They're
surprising.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yes. So I love going to the youth programs, but I feel like I've gotten to know so many people that I, wouldn't have otherwise met. Just, going into shelters and food pantries and all of these different programs. And I feel like, they're my people now,
Yeah.
and I wasn't part of this space 2 years ago, but I feel so lucky that I am now.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you want to get involved, you can go to the website and then become a bagel rescuer. I guess if there's restaurants, how do you find the actual restaurants? Do you just, I mean, is it just calling around?
Yes, exactly. But we're always looking for new donors too. So, and hopefully we'll get to a point. We're in a great place with bagels, but we're also in a growth phase. So we're hoping to get to a point where we can rescue other foods. Some foods take additional accommodations, like refrigeration and things, but we would love to grow into other types of food areas, and then outside of Atlanta as well.
Yeah, have people from other cities reached out that are outside of the Atlanta metro?
Yes. I've had the fortune of working with several community organizations where people have come in from other cities and they're like, oh my gosh, we want to do this in our city. Or, a cousin tells another cousin and somewhere else that they're doing this and they want to try to do it. I've had volunteers move to other cities and want to start bagel rescues there. So got some things in the works to move past Atlanta.
That's awesome. Very, very cool.
And I also want to say this is certainly about hunger relief, and also there's the environmental piece, keeping good food out of landfills. There's no reason to throw away good food, but there's this is also about food justice. We know that there are underserved communities right here in Metro Atlanta that don't have access to good, fresh food. And so Bagel Rescue is trying to break down those barriers. And we push into the communities that need food the most, because food is a human right. It is a most basic need, and everybody deserves to eat. So absolutely. I like to say that bagels are a bridge. And they inspire creativity and inclusion, and we want to give people a bite of dignity.
Awesome. I think that's a great way to wrap up, right? So if you're interested in helping out Erin, check out the website. And yeah, thanks for spending some time with me. This was awesome. It's a wonderful idea. Tell Reese that this is a great idea.
I'll tell him. Thank you so much for having me.